can go ahead and just tell people who you are, what you do, and maybe a little bit of your background if you want to.
Okay. Hey guys, I'm Lamar Woods, founder of Woods and Tech, also founder of So Heart. I essentially build technology. I've been in technology since around 10 years ago, and I've always been infatuated with computers and with what computers can do. And somewhere around 4 years ago, I decided to jump out into the entrepreneurial space and figure out how to do this for myself, because I knew that my calling in life was just much larger than being an employee, much larger than being like any of my uncles or my cousins. I felt like I had more in me, more to do, and said, hey, now is now or never. Now's the time. There's no time like the present. So that's how I got to where I am today, and meeting this dope brother here just through the work that I've been doing.
I guess a little bit more like in regards to, you said you started doing about 10 years ago. I guess how did you get into tech? Like what caused that spark for you?
Okay. What caused the spark was, it's a combination of things, but I think that me being poor was probably the biggest spark. I, just like everybody, I played around a lot with video games, and while I was playing with those video games, just playing. But one day I had the chance to get around a computer that was connected to the internet, whereas we didn't have internet at the house, and sort of the combination of games and having access to the internet for the first time sort of combined to make me fall in love with what computers could do. And essentially what happened was, I was working, not working, but I was going to school in the Rittner School District, and they had an advanced program like most schools do, and I did well on the test and got to go to this class where I did more complex things, and at the end of the class they would let us sort of play around on the computer for about 10, 15, 20 minutes, and while doing that, this friend of mine introduced me to this game called RuneScape. And I played RuneScape. I was like, wow, this is cool. And I'm like, this internet thing is really cool. I've always wanted a computer that was connected to the internet, but just being exposed to it while at the same time being able to use it for something that I liked, which was games, made me say, I really like this computer situation. And so fast forward to high school, because that was in the 8th grade, I did not have any idea what I would do for college. And so I'm thinking, science, there's some cool stuff in there, but most of it I feel like is boring. The periodic table, I didn't want to remember that. Nobody did. I felt like history was boring. It's already been lived. Somebody already wrote the book, and I don't even want to read the book. There was just so many things that we learned in school that I felt like were not interesting. And the sort of math and science is what I felt like was most interesting. But I still didn't want to. I didn't want to write formulas all day. I felt like that was dumb. Even though you had to be smart to do it. So what I did was I thought about what I'm interested in, and boom, it came to me: computers. That magical moment from when I was playing RuneScape for 15 minutes a day, when I finally got connected to the internet. That moment came to me as I was thinking about like what am I interested in? What do I really like to do? And so I said, okay, well, I'm just going to go to school for computer engineering. And so I went off to Mizzou for computer engineering, which is a mix of hardware and software. Fast forward, I was like, I really don't want to screw things in. I want to just, the way I thought about it is I want to go off onto the mountain and then come off of the mountain with my new creation. Like without any machines or anything crazy. I just want to take a laptop, give me some internet, and let me go create something. And software was that for me. So that's how I got in here.
All right, cool. Well, thank you for sharing that, getting us acclimated with how you were got interested in tech and everything. Throughout your experience especially as a black male, what has it been like in this field? What does it look like? Does it look like us? You know, tell us about what your experience has been.
I've had a lot of experiences, some of them good, some of them bad. I think the question is easier for me to answer is, you know, does it look like us? And the answer is no. At every job I went to, I was a minority. There was one situation where it was half the company was black, but that's because we only had 4 people working in the company. My very first job, it was a startup, and you know, it was literally, you know, my friend Pierre, who is a black African French guy, very interesting character. He was working with me on a project, and it was literally just me and him working in the room together, and the boss would come in, and you know, and we had another guy join later, but that was the only situation, and it was only because he actually knew the boss. So that was the one time I felt like it was a bit close or even. Every time other than that, it's literally me and an entire room full of people who are, you know, white, Asian, you know, some other race. Yeah, I've always been in the minority, and there were a couple times where I felt like, oh, we've got one of us in here, but literally it was like a movie moment, like, oh my God, you're here, I'm here, like, and so it was never like there was a lot of us. I never felt like we were represented. So that's just why I feel like it's more important for us to get in there, to throw off the idea that we as black people need to do something super flashy or cool, or, you know, basketball, or, you know, music. You know, I think that we as black people held ourselves in a bubble, while the rest of the world probably did to some extent, but I feel like we decided that there were certain industries that were cool and everything else was lame. Whereas today I feel like everything can be cool. You just gotta do something cool with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Most definitely, man. With that being said, you know, through your experience, what are some things that, and you kind of touched on it just now at the end, some things you would like to change in the industry, in the tech industry, or what do you think would help improve it across the board, for its diversity, for its other areas of improvement you know you can notice? What are some things, I guess, if Lamar was like, hey, this is how I would do it, what are some things you would implement?
I think that there is a very high bar in tech. Just because there's a lot of smart people in it, there's a lot of money in it, you end up being very elitist in terms of like the intake process. So what that actually looks like in space is, if you don't have the perfect resume, if you can't say that you've worked, you know, you've done exactly this job and you've done it twice, or you've got a degree and you've got 1 or 2 degrees in it, then in most places you just won't get a job. And as a black person, you won't even make it on the stack, right? They just throw it out immediately. I happen to be lucky that I was getting a degree in that, and that I jumped out early. I found a boss that wasn't white himself, and so, you know, me jumping out early and sort of getting in on an internship type basis and graduating with full-blown experience is kind of what got me my start. But not everybody has the foresight to just jump out and basically get an internship halfway through college, or, you know, earlier. So what I would like to see is more acceptance of people whose backgrounds, you know, are similar but not exactly what the job is looking for. Maybe you don't need to cross all the T's. Maybe you can cross 2 of the T's. Maybe they've got a good resume but not the greatest, because we as black people we don't have that many good examples in our families. When I became a developer, I was the only developer I knew in my family. I was only, like, out of all of my friends' families, I was the only developer that I knew. And so you know, it's harder for us to accumulate that experience, and it's harder for us to get the accolades. And so if there was one thing I would change, it would be sort of not a lowering of the bar of quality, but lowering the bar in terms of who you let in, because people get good on the job. Even in school, you only learn to a certain extent. A book will never teach you how to do anything. It'll teach you things about what you're doing, but it won't teach you how to do it.
Right.
And so that's what I would change.
Getting into this field and everything, you taught us a little bit about that experience, and you are a developer, and you, I'm not sure if it's recent or when, but you created your own app. So can you give us a little bit of background about, you know, the when, the where, the why, how, you know, the what, about the app, you know, what caused you to create it, you know, or the why you created it, you know, what is the app, you know, who does it serve, and, you know, just a little bit about it. So.
Yeah. So the when is probably about 3 years ago. I came up with the idea for the app. The what is, you know, it's an addiction recovery application, and essentially the reason I got into it was because I recognize that as a black founder, we don't have all the resources of, you know, being able to spend tons of money on marketing or tons of money on getting into rich circles. And so there was a bit of an issue in terms of getting clients. Like, when you get the ball rolling, and this is a struggle for every business, when you get the ball rolling, when you're trying to really push it, you know, this boulder uphill, it's tough. You've got to figure out how to service your customers. You got to figure out how to get clients. You got to figure out how to give back. And you feel like, you know, it's impossible to do really all of them at the same time. And I had visions, like I said earlier, about, you know, myself when I was younger. I had visions of doing something greater than just working for someone. And so I said, well, you know, even though I'm an entrepreneur, I'm still really just working for someone. I'm still really just producing a product for someone who's exchanging money with me. Where's the mission, right? What am I really doing for society? And so I decided to solve multiple problems at the same time. Essentially, I would combat the problem of, you know, people asking me, well, what's your portfolio? What kind of stuff have you done? I'd be able to combat that and be able to help people in need if I was to create an app that was for people in need. And I've got an older brother who's struggled with addiction for 10 plus years. And so when I was thinking about that way to give back, I was thinking about how exactly would this work out? What would it be? As I was thinking about it, you know, he came to mind. You know, the people in my family who have drug addictions came to mind. And so I said, well, this is a big enough problem. If I solve it, then I would help a lot of people. And when I do solve it, people out there will be able to see, they'll be able to go out there and take a look at the work that I've done, and I can get past this chicken and egg problem of how do you get clients without having a portfolio? How do you have a portfolio if you don't have clients? And so I decided to spend some time building up the portfolio by helping people in need. And so I came up with SoHeart, which is my drug addiction recovery company. After a while, I spun it out into its own business, and essentially I'm helping people who struggle with recovery, who struggle with drugs, and I'm helping them to connect and be able to walk through recovery together. Essentially taking the technology from the dating industry and applying it in a way to a different audience. You know, taking it away from, you know, needing to connect people over dating and connecting people for a better purpose, which is recovering from drugs.
Cool. Well, I think that's a good, you know, really good, especially being in the counseling field. It's another another resource out there for us to have, especially a digital one. So, you know, you can service people not even in your own state. You
Mm-hmm.
can go nationwide, worldwide. So, commend you on that. You know, we need more ideas like that. So, I hope that it continues to blossom and grow, and whatever you aspire for it to be, I hope it gets there. So,
Thank you.
no
Thank you.
problem.